This year is about pursuing something great. This year is about the dream that I've had for as long as I can remember. This year is not about showing up. It's about making a statement. Trust me when I say this. The time is now. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Time Is Now, episode 2. Potentially our first episode after the first kind of launch episode, but here we are. We've got a series of videos now that we're going to film, which are ultimately going to lay out what's going to happen. So we've got a training plan video, which is going to be right now. We're going to go through a steroid cycle one, which of course is going to be something that we have to address. We're going to talk about what we're going to do with food, cardio, and we're going to outline these over the next two to three episodes, just so you guys can understand what goes into it, what you have to think about before you go into a prep, and perhaps how you can apply that to yourself. Excuse my lisp, I've just got Invisalign. I'm not really used to the brace. I literally got it yesterday, so I'm not fully used to the retainers at the moment, but so just excuse that. So today's video, we're going to talk about the training program, the training program that I will be running into to try and qualify for the Olympia, which is mind-blowing to say. It's insane that I'm now sitting here. I've always been trying to get to the Olympia, but now I can almost see it, I can almost feel it. So I'm really excited for this year, and this is going to be the training program that we're going to go through. So as I bring my training program up here, you can see that the SPA's specific goal is going to be this top line. You know, I am a men's physique competitor. I wear shorts. So as much as people want me to get my legs out, I'm still wearing shorts this year. So the goal has to be filling out these gaps and ultimately holding on to this tissue that I've built across that top line for that men's physique look. So having said that, Monday session will be a push pec dominant tricep. So there will be some lateral delts, but it'll be pec dominant. Tuesday will be almost like a posterior upper back day. So we will have a few little hamstrings on there, just because I want to build my hamstrings because they're a little bit uneven compared to my quads. Then I'll rest every Wednesday like I have been doing in this off season. Then on Thursday, we're going to have a push delt dominant with also triceps involved, as well as biceps on that pull day. Where there was just one delt exercise on that first push day, there is going to be 3 or 4 exercises on my delts on the second day to account for the less volume earlier in the week, with a little bit of pec sprinkled in there, and then triceps again. Friday will be my leg day, my lower day. Obviously just having legs once a week has been the priority, so we can have an extra day available for my upper body, because ultimately that's what gets showed on stage. And then finally on Saturday will be a pull session, but like a normal pull session with no hamstrings, and pretty much no lower loading as well, no hip hinging or anything, and then biceps again. And then every Sunday will continue to be my rest day. Now I really like structured rest days, because I find that us as bodybuilders, we want to train all the time, but if you can keep and adhere to 2 solid rest days per week, you're getting that rest and you've got no excuse. I really like the routine as well. It gives me time to, I look over there because my girlfriend's over there. It gives me time to spend some time with my girlfriend, to plan things on those days that I have rest days. Specifically as my workload increases and my businesses grow, that Wednesday or that rest day becomes very valuable to me to just put loads and loads of work on there, as I'll only have to get up and do cardio and my steps as we get deeper into it. So we'll go through each session just so you guys can get a pretty good face value of what's going to happen here. So my first session, I'll read you through it and then briefly talk about it. So we'll always warm up like we normally do on the pec deck. This is something I've been incorporating the last off season. It's really worked for me. Then we're going to have a big incline chest movement. I'm not going to be super anal about doing these exact exercises, because sometimes exercises they don't always fit. So you may see me swap a few of those in and out, but I will explain them as I do, just to kind of, either for my own personal preference. For example, here we've got an incline Smith machine press. The Smith machines that we have in the gym, I'm not the hugest fan of, so maybe I'll swap this for a Cybex incline, maybe I'll swap this for a dumbbell incline, depending on how we go. Then we'll go for something in a fly. So we've kind of got a big incline press, then we want to do a fly, because that is the second function of the pec, is that adduction to the body. We're going to do that incline. Then we'll have a big flat press, because we want to work in that lower region of the muscle after working in the upper region. And then we'll do the same with the fly downwards, which kind of makes sense. So then you cover all of the movement patterns of the pec pretty efficiently, with just a couple sets here. And then finally, we'll just finish up on those lateral delts here, which you can see right at the bottom. And then we'll move into our tricep exercises. Now we'll do a few more sets on those lateral raises just because it's the single and only delt movement for the day. And those tricep exercises, we're probably going to start slightly higher volume. So 3 or 4 sets for those tricep exercises. And as fatigue starts to build, and this will go for every single session, as fatigue starts to build, as body fat starts to come very, very low, and the goal really is not like gaining muscle, it's just like maintaining. We can drop those sets off to just minimum effective volume to hold that muscle. Because at the beginning of a prep, realistically speaking, I'm going to be putting a load of drugs in, and for the first, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks, I'm probably going to grow a bit. You know, you're going to have that initial androgen exposure. I'm going to refill the androgens that I've not been using for the last 2 months, 3 months. Right now I'm on full TRT, so as soon as you start to bump that back up, you will notice that difference physically. And that's it for that push session. Coming on to our pull session now. This is one of my favorite sessions. Starts off with hamstrings, then we do a 45-degree hip extension. I don't do deadlifts because for me, they've always compromised my lower back. Does it hinder me in my back development? I would say the way that this is set up, probably not. And I feel like I've improved my back very, very much so over the last off season. And that was something that if you're going to be a force on the men's physique pro stage, you need that front shot to be gnarly, you need that back shot to be gnarly, which is why we have 2 push sessions and 2 pull sessions, because we need that to be really, really good. Then we've got the prone incline thoracic extension. You guys would have seen me do this with the dumbbells across the bench, through that spinal extension and loading that lower back nicely. Then we've got some rows, T-bar rows, dumbbell rows, things like that, which you guys have seen many, many times before. I don't need to talk you through it. And then we just kiss the biceps at the bottom. So then we'd have that rest day on the Wednesday, and then coming into the Thursday would be our delt-dominant push day, which here, instead of starting with the pec deck like normal, we would start with like a crucifix lateral raise, just to try and ultimately do the same thing, get some blood in the joint, get that movement working, work the muscle in the short range as early as possible before that fatigue builds up and it gets harder to get there. And then we'll do a shoulder press. So before we start with an incline press, obviously the vertical dominance of a delt day is present. So that's where we'll do a shoulder press first, and then we'll move into our normal flat presses, because ultimately a pec is a much bigger muscle than the deltoid is. Like, realistically speaking, your lateral delt is literally just this, your front delt is this. Like, the whole delt as a whole muscle is 3 muscles versus your pec, which is 1, or 2 if you want to be specific. There's a lot more difference in that. So you still need probably a little bit more stimulation on the chest, or for me at least, across the week, which is why we've got that flat press in there as well. And also we still have a fly in there as well. So there's 2 chest exercises versus in the first push session, we only have 1 lateral delt exercise. So there'll be very much, obviously you guys are reading this on here, so I don't want to like list it out. That's like presenting 101. Present the PowerPoint, but don't read off the PowerPoint. And then we've got the normal lateral raises. You'll probably see me vary these depending on what's free in the gym sometimes, because ultimately they do very, very similar things. So you'd have the lying lateral raise, you have the standing lateral raise, crucifix lateral raise, machine lateral raise, and the standing machine lateral raise. So there's those 5 lateral raises that I'll probably interchange between, and I'll track all 5 of them as we go forward. Then we've kind of got our leg session here. Now this is pretty low volume. This is probably going to stay on minimum effective volume it was a minimum effective volume to grow. Now it's going to be minimum effective volume to kind of maintain. And I'm going to be probably using a bike most of the prep, because that's what I've got here, unless I can find something a little bit different closer by. Ideally, I want to be using a Stairmaster for my cardio. There's no Stairmaster within like a 15-minute drive, which is really what I want to be doing. Otherwise, I'd be driving to Crayford twice a day. It takes me half an hour to get there on a normal day, half an hour to get back. That's 2 hours of driving a day. I'm going to struggle to have 2 hours available to drive to the gym a day, just based off my workload. So that's why I've got the bike here. There isn't Anytime Fitness nearby, which has a stepper, but I fucking hate the stepper as well, so I might interchange the 2. This is the same leg day that I've done all off season, so you guys would have seen it. It's the adductor, the lying hamstring curl, the leg extension, the Cybex hack squat, if I can find it. I'm probably going to do quite a few sessions down at Halo Gym in Tunbridge Wells, which you guys would have seen the channel on a few times. Love the atmosphere, love the vibe there, and compared to the other gym that I go to, which we shall not be named. And then a leg press, and then calves. Couple sets on each of those, just keep it at minimum. This is going to be a big calorie burner for me. Leg days are always a very big calorie burner for people. So, you know, often when people do men's physique, they think, oh, I'm going to slack on that leg day because, you know, I don't get my legs out. Well, actually, you probably burn more calories than every other day on that leg day, which serves as a very good calorie output for the week, which is how you've got to be considering these things. If you have 4 good sessions, calorie burns high, all the way to leg day, then it's really low. Like, that will affect your calorie input and output and your equation for the week. So I use that leg day as a big session. Finally, the pull day. This is kind of your typical pull day that you probably would see most people do. So we've got the pull downs, we've got the Nautilus pull down, we've got the Nautilus row, we've got the prime row as well. So there's lots of rows, lots of pull downs, and this is the stuff that you've seen me do over the last few months as well. So very similar sessions, because ultimately what worked in the off season, what built your muscle in the off season, is what's going to keep that muscle when you cut. You know, what built it will keep it, and that's what people need to understand here. There is no logic, there is no sense in having a bulking volume and a cutting volume other than volume potentially coming down while you're cutting. There is no bulking reps and cutting reps. A lot of people think that, okay, I'm cutting now, I'm gonna do 4 or 5 sets instead of 2 or 3, and I'm gonna do 15 to 20 reps instead of 5 to 10. That's not how it works. That's not how a muscle works. A muscle completely responds to stimulus, whether that stimulus over 5 reps or 30 reps. It doesn't really make a huge difference. So all we say as hypertrophy coaches or physique coaches is spend your time between those 2 rep ranges, between 5 and 30. You know, it doesn't matter where you fail between those, because the stimulus is largely going to be the same as long as you're training to a certain stimulus per week, i.e. I train to failure. So if I train to failure over 5 reps versus 30 reps, odds are that stimulus is quite similar, because obviously in the 5 reps, the weight's probably heavier. I'm gonna do what I did in the off season, because what built my muscle is gonna keep my muscle. And that is the training program, guys. It is usually gonna be phase specific. So normally what we would do is in the off season at least, is have a very small amount of volume week 1 to 2. Week 3 to 4, bump the volume up. Week 5 to 6, bump the volume up. And week 7 and 8, potentially look at a deload, or if you feel good, go another week. We are probably going to just keep everything at a standard amount of volume. And the only thing that will happen to my volume or my sets, when I say volume, I mean the amount of sets that I'm doing, we'll just drop 1 or 2 off here and there. And those will probably come off the most taxing exercises. As we get much leaner, as leverages start to decrease, as injury risk starts to increase, that's when you have to be a little bit more tactical with your volume. But as those things change, guys, we'll obviously we'll talk you through it. But so that is the summary of the training program that may or may not take me to Olympia. And then we're gonna leave that video there. So we're gonna leave this video as its own. This is a very good video for you guys to kind of come back and revisit, and you can see how these training programs are set up. You can see the order, the exercise order, the tempos, the explanations how, and it's a good little resource for you guys to come back to. So guys, we really are getting into the thick of it now. That's episode 2. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe, because it's gonna be a hell of a ride. Peace, everybody. See you in the next video.